an international organization for 48 years in order to focus our vision on certain areas. We would like to have a strategic growth in Africa in the following areas: solar and storage, large-scale convention centers, mass housing, large marine projects, large infrastructure and connectivity projects, large oil and gas projects. At Shapoorji, we endeavor to touch the lives of people in a beneficial manner in whichsoever country or geography that we put our foot into. We would like to come to Africa to enrich the social culture, the social fabric of the entire continent. We would like to come to Africa to enrich ourselves with the culture of the various different African countries. We plan at Shapoorji, we envision at Shapoorji, our focus at Shapoorji is to be in Africa for another 100 years. We would love to make investments in Africa and see Africa grow and grow together with Africa.
In 1868, the Tata Group was founded on a philosophy that put the community at the heart of its existence. Today, we are a $100 billion global enterprise. Our today has been built on enduring values. Today is about delivering excellence across business sectors. Today is about building a future-ready nation. Our today has a strong foundation with community at its core. Our today is dedicated to the communities we serve. Our today is always about more than just today. Our today is a continuous journey for a better tomorrow. Tata. Leadership with trust.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. मनीष जी मैं काम मिनिस्टर से बात कर रहा हूँ, 1 मिनट करता हूँ मैं आपको।
Amit, you have provision for translation in this session?
Yeah, Honorable Minister from Equatorial Guinea, he would be speaking in Spanish, and we have a, interpreter who will actually translate after the speech of the Honorable Minister.
No, so it is not simultaneous.
No, it is not simultaneous. It would be, after the, speech of the minister.
Right. Okay.
Hello,
Amit, has the
Renuka.
Minister for Equatorial Guinea has joined?
Yeah, he's, I'm in touch with Indrani. I think Indrani is working on that. We are
Okay. So we'll request, maybe, to maybe take him little later, Renuka, if he's not joined, maybe.
We'll see.
Maybe in the last year.
We still have 10 minutes.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
wait.
yeah.
Let's wait.
Thanks.
Somebody was speaking to me. Yes, Andita, tell me.
Hi, Renuka. How are you?
Hi. I'm good. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Okay, the
Tell me.
Spanish translator, once the minister finishes her speech,
Yeah.
if you could please announce beforehand that her speech will be translated after she finishes her speech.
Okay, we'll request Mr. Vahi to do that because he will be moderating the session. I will only be starting it off and inviting him. So I'm sure Mr. Vahi will announce that. We'll arrange that. Okay. Do we also have simultaneous translation in French for any of the speakers? Amit?
Yeah, everyone is speaking in English only.
Okay. So we don't need to tell them about the interpretation thing. Okay, fine.
building a future-ready nation. Our today has a strong foundation with community at its core. Our today is dedicated to the communities we serve. Our today is always about more than just today. Our today is a continuous journey for a better tomorrow. Tata, leadership with trust.
Good afternoon, Mr. Wahi.
Good afternoon, Renuka.
We will start in another 30 seconds now. If that's okay with you? I can't hear you for some reason.
Yeah, can you hear me? Hello. Yeah, can you hear?
Good morning, Mr. Rajiv Vahi and Renuka. I can hear you, Mr. Rajiv.
Okay.
This is Gaurish from South Africa.
All right. I think Renuka, for some reason, is unable to hear.
Yeah. Actually, she is also muted, probably. We can't hear her also.
Renuka, we can hear Mr. Rajiv Vahi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of the Economic Diplomacy Division of the Ministry of External Affairs, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India, India Exim Bank, and the Confederation of Indian Industry, I welcome you all to the second day of the 16th CII Exim Bank Conclave on India and Africa Project Partnership. The theme of the conclave is Harnessing the Africa-India Opportunity, Connect, Create, Collaborate. The session on agriculture is Harvesting Growth Opportunities in Africa's Agriculture and Food Sectors. I'd like to welcome our guests of honor, Honorable Lobin Low, Minister of Agriculture, Republic of Malawi, Honorable Karabo Sokrat Gare, Minister of Agricultural Development and Food Security, Republic of Botswana, Honorable Francisca Enima Efua, Minister of Agriculture, Equatorial Guinea, who is yet to join, Honorable Professor Nkub Mihuli, Minister of Finance, Zimbabwe. I'd like to request Mr. Rajiv Vahi, Member CII Africa Committee and a moderator for this session, to kindly give his welcome remarks and take the session forward. Over to you, Mr. Vahi.
Thank you, Renika. Good afternoon, all the honorable ministers and delegates present, to the ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to moderate this important session on agriculture. Normally, we have this session on an annual basis in person. This is the second time we are having it digitally. COVID has created, as you all know, an unprecedented situation in the developing world, creating an environment where we have to go for this digital conclave. Amid the disruption caused by the ravaging pandemic, lockdown in several countries, economic hardships, and social uncertainties, the gains made in last few decades in several sectors stand threatened. Agriculture, among all the sectors, has shown a lot of resilience among all the other sectors globally, in spite of the lockdowns and border closures led to the disruption to the supply lines. Still, agriculture globally, we've seen, has shown a lot of revival in many of the countries. There have been difficulties in purchasing of essential goods, seeds, fertilizers, as also in selling the produce. The exports were especially affected due to the lockdowns in the importing countries because of logistic reasons. This has led to reduced income, job losses for producers, and the commodities, also resulting in food security challenge being aggravated. To add to these woes were some of the recent countries having low-cost attacks and floods in many parts of Africa. This is hard hitting for a continent where even before the pandemic, according to FAO, there were about 256 million hungry people in Africa, as per FAO's Africa Regional Overview of Food Security and Nutrition Report of 2019. 2020 McKinsey and Company article titled Safeguarding Africa's Food Systems Through and Beyond the Crisis cites that agriculture constitutes 23% of GDP in Africa and employs 60% of the population of sub-Saharan Africa, making it a fairly important source of employment. It also constitutes 35 billion of food exports and about 40 billion worth of exports of agricultural products. That said, the present crisis could hit the region hard in the short and the long term, and the advances made in sectors could see a rollback. Means now it's the time more than ever that there's a pressing need to put our feet on the pedal and really push for agricultural development and harness the potential of Africa in terms of agriculture. Agriculture, as you know, is a primary sector of the economy. It offers sustainable job opportunities and income, and it would also help in upliftment of a lot of masses and support of growth of a lot of other related sectors. COVID has only heightened the agriculture's importance in such a socio-economic stability, and it's imperative to prioritize agriculture. In such a scenario, the role of tractorization, just very briefly, I want to mention, as India and Africa, we are talking of cooperation between two countries, India and Africa, same number of people, 1.3 billion approximately. India is the world's largest tractor market with about 900,000 tractors. And Africa, same number of people, 9 times the size, only about 30,000 tractors sold. Whole of Africa. So the huge potential for tractorization and improving agriculture. But it also requires a coordinated approach. Tractors itself cannot do. Along with tractors, we need irrigation, logistics, agro-processing, seeds, fertilizers, etc. The 3 editions of the India-Africa Forum Summits have included on the agenda cooperation for improving farm techniques, irrigation techniques, water management, crop varieties, etc. on a regular basis. India's engagement with African agriculture has been 3-pronged, basically, in which the government agencies, private players, development organizations, and trainers have been paying a role. Besides the bilateral engagement, India is also operating on a trilateral modes with different countries to promote agriculture in Africa. The financial assistance is spearheaded from Indian side by Exim Bank of India in the form of concession lines of credit for supply of tractors, harvesters, farm mechanization, building up irrigation, setting up agricultural institutes, etc. A number of Indian tractor companies have been very actively involved in farm mechanization projects across Africa, playing an active role and also setting up assembly lines, training centers across Africa. Another aspect of our support has been on capacity enhancement and skill development. We have helped African countries in all aspects of agriculture over the last few decades by either taking skill initiatives to their land or inviting agricultural students from Africa in our agricultural institutes. Scientific expertise and training in soil quality, water management, seed quality, better yields, etc. Cold storage, agrofinance, some of the other training programs that have been conducted. In fact, the year before pandemic struck in April 2019, the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India signed an MOU with National Bank of Agriculture and Rural Development Consultancy Services, NAPCONS, for setting up an India-Africa Institute of Agriculture and Rural Development in Malawi. So this institute will be provided in areas of microfinancing and agrofinancing, among others. The institute will also be a pan-African institute where trainees not only from Malawi but also from other African countries will be welcome to participate for their training needs. India and Africa have painstakingly laid the groundwork for cooperation, and we need to progress on this path despite disruption to normal life caused by COVID. Now, let us now utilize this session as a platform to enhance, to get more insights and hear from distinguished panelists and honorable ministers present here, their views on how we can engage India and Africa towards the agricultural opportunities. Due to a very tight time schedule and a number of eminent panelists whom we have today on this session, I would request each panelist to restrict their views to 4 to 5 minutes maximum. And then please don't mind in between if I'm reminding them at the end of 4 minutes, because we need to accommodate as much views as possible. So I seek the cooperation from all panelists in this sticking to the time schedule, very important for us to hear everyone. And all participants are requested to send their questions, if they have any, in the chat box, and we will pass on to the respective panelists here. I now take the opportunity to invite our first panelist for the day, Honorable Minister for Agriculture from Malawi, Honorable Mr. Lobin Low. He is a Member of Parliament since 2009, comes with a Bachelor of Science degree in Horticulture. He ventured into commercial farming on his own as well and runs a farm where he grows mangoes and bananas as well. Excellency, with your both political and farming background, we would look forward to know from you what kind of opportunities you see in the agri-development sector in Malawi and Africa in particular. Honorable Honorable Low, please.
Monsieur le ministre.
Honorable Minister, you have to unmute yourself, please. I think there's some connectivity issue with the Honorable Minister's connection. In the meantime,
Excellency, you are on the mute. If you could unmute yourself. Yes.
Hello.
We can hear you now.
You can hear me now.
Yes, please go ahead.
Good.
Très bien.
Honorable ministers,
Messieurs les ministres,
distinguished guests,
délégués éminents,
ladies and gentlemen,
mesdames et messieurs,
it is a privilege and honor for me and the
c'est un
government of
honneur
Malawi to be
moi et
party
pour
to
le
this regional dialogue.
gouvernement de Malawi de prendre parole à cette séance.
Our government recognizes
Notre gouvernement
the significance
reconnaît
of strategic partnership for
le
the
partenariat
advancement of
stratégique Allô?
Yeah, please continue.
the 16th Exim conclave on India-Africa project. A partnership provides an excellent platform for negotiations and insights into how best we can make use of the vast market potential between Africa and India. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please continue.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Honorable Minister, please continue.
I see. This plenary session would discuss the growth opportunities in Africa's agriculture and food sectors. To begin with, Malawi economy domestic product, several opportunities exist in a number of areas within the agriculture sector. Some of them include horticultural crops, legumes, cannabis, and livestock production, among others. Additionally, Malawi offers several opportunities in agro-processing, farm mechanization, and fertilizer manufacturing. Regarding horticultural crops, let me mention that we have fruits such as mangoes, guava, and citrus, while in vegetables, we have the likes of tomatoes, onions, Irish potatoes, and chilies, just to mention a few. Lately, there has been a growing demand for horticultural crops from both local and international markets. Investment opportunities in this area exist throughout the whole value chain, from production up to processing of crops into finished products, and the Indian government is very welcome to venture into any of these existing opportunities regarding horticultural crops. Malawi has also high relative comparative advantage in legume production. And let me take this opportunity to extend our gratitude to the Indian government for the trade agreement that we have signed on the trade of pigeon peas. This agreement has intensified our legume farmers, and I'm happy to report that as a government, we have made strides in identifying, organizing and potential suppliers. With regards to cannabis production, I'm pleased to inform the government of India that we have enacted the Cannabis Act to regulate production, distribution, and the consumption of the medical cannabis. This provides a great opportunity for the private sector investment in processing cannabis into final products. So these areas of investment that I have discussed here are some of the opportunities that exist in the agriculture sector. However, if the government of India is interested in a particular value chain that I have not mentioned, let me give you the assurance that my ministry is ready to discuss bilateral or at any time. On the other hand, allow me to recognize the role that the government of India has done in advocating for Africa's regional economic integration and its assistance in the development of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, which has become the world's largest free trade area, serving 1.3 billion people across 54 countries with a combined GDP valued at more than 33 trillion US dollars. I'm happy to report that Malawi developed a national strategy under the African Continental Free Trade Area that is now being implemented across the country in cross-border trade. With the strategy in place, the nation is well placed to reap the benefits of cross-border trade through its vibrant sectors, including the agriculture sector. I'm certain that it is not only Malawi that will narrate success stories following the African Continental Free Trade Area, but indeed each and every country in the continent. As I am winding up my remarks, let me mention that Malawi, just like any other country in the world, has been hardly hit by COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic has not spared our farmers, who are the anchor of most of African economies. It would therefore be fruitful if we could brainstorm on how best we can continue revamping agricultural production amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. I wish to commend organizers of this meeting for the job well done, and also to extend gratitude from His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Malawi, His Excellency Dr. Lazarus Chakwera, for all the support that India lent us to Malawi. May this partnership continue to exist. I thank you so for the attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency, especially for being very specific with the opportunities in Malawi. I'm sure the participant will look at that and come forward, contact you. Our next participant, distinguished speaker, is Honorable Minister for Agriculture Development and Food Security from Botswana, Mr. Karabo Socrates Gare. Excellency, the floor is for you. He's been Agriculture Minister since August 2020. Before this, he joined the Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry, and he's a seasoned accountant by profession. Excellency, with your background in agriculture as well as trade industry, do you see agriculture to be run as a business in Africa on a sustainable basis? And what can be done to make agriculture attractive as a profession for the African people?
Thank you very much, Director of Ceremonies. I want to believe that I am audible, right?
Yes, you are audible, yes.
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, representatives of international organizations, delegates from various member states, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good day. It is indeed a great honor for me to be participating in this plenary session number 4 of the 16th CII Exim Bank Digital Conclave, on India-Africa project partnership under the theme Harvesting Growth Opportunities in Africa's Agriculture and Food Sectors. I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to our host for today for according me the opportunity to say a few remarks in this meeting. Director of Ceremonies, as you are aware, we are gathered here today to further a relationship and discuss opportunities in Africa's agriculture and food sectors. We do so recognizing the value that agriculture and food security holds for uplifting lives and livelihoods for our people. And Director of Ceremonies, like you rightly said, agriculture provides an opportunity for us as countries to diversify our economies. It provides opportunities for us to create wealth for our people. It provides opportunities for us to actually take our people out of poverty. The truth of the matter is, it's one sector with many value chains, which when explored properly, we can actually get a lot of people out of a dire situation of the economy of the economic status. Director of Ceremonies, today, as I present to you, I am reminded of the words of Booker T. Washington's instructive counsel, where he said, "No race can prosper until it learns there's as much dignity in tilling a field as in writing a poem." The relevance and timelines of today's meetings cannot be overstated. Evidence indicates that Africa is not producing enough quantities commensurate to its agricultural land. This is a very serious challenge for policy formulators, for farmers and investors, all those that are in the agricultural sector, to develop implementable strategies that will promote the uptake of agriculture as an enterprise. This augurs well with what you said when you welcomed me and when you introduced me to the panel. This is because it engages the entire value chain. That is why we believe it promotes and offers an opportunity for agriculture to be run as an enterprise. Farmers, no matter how small their production is, they must be assured of a market and a fair price for the produce at the marketplace. Investors must also participate in development of sustainable value chains environment. It is important that we increase investment on mechanization of the agricultural sector, development of markets, and improvement of the manufacturing sectors in ways that take cognizance of intra and international trade trends and demands. In my country, Botswana, the increase in food import bill is indicative of poor uptake in agricultural production. Between 2010 and 2019, as an example, Botswana's import bill rose from 5 billion pula to 9 billion pula, nearly doubling in just under a decade. Products of food commodities that are mostly imported include sugar, maize grain, wheat, rice, UHT milk, and fruit juices. We also have a plethora of processed products, such as tomato ketchup, yogurt, and stuffed pasta. These are also frequent features of frequent products that we import. These food commodities present valuable opportunities that farmers and investors can tap on. It is therefore least surprising that Botswana still lists agriculture and agricultural manufacturing as key in her transformational agenda. In this regard, Botswana welcomes investment and partnership between local farmers and commercial farmers, as well as international investment on the agricultural sector, including manufacturing and processing. I want to reiterate and state it again that we welcome investment and partnership between our local farmers and commercial farmers, as well as international investment on the agricultural sector, including manufacturing and processing of these. It's a great opportunity that one or some people can venture, or some investors can venture into, and we can guarantee you the returns are quite good. This is also supported by the fact that the import bill, as I have already stated, is already hitting 9 billion pula. Director of Ceremonies, allow me to present briefly opportunities that can be obtained in the agricultural sector here in Botswana. I present them in no order of preference, but as areas where investment will certainly yield returns. These are horticulture and processed horticulture products, cereals and byproducts, animal feeds, fodder production, ostrich farming, and meat and byproducts, beef and byproducts, honey and byproducts, milk and processed milk products, piggery and byproducts, agriculture insurance, poultry, fish farming, input supply, solar power for farming, for powering our farms. These are some of the opportunities which can be obtained here in Botswana. And as I said, I did not list them in any order of preference. Director of Ceremonies, as I draw to conclusion, let me thank the organizers once again for allowing us to participate and remind them that the status of agriculture and food production in particular must be seen as a presentation of investment opportunities. There's a real promise of great returns for investment in the agricultural sector in Botswana, as per the data shared earlier on this. Ladies and gentlemen, Botswana remains open for agribusiness, and we are ready to welcome you. I thank you, Director Sumins. I thank you for your kind attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Very pleasure to see a young, dynamic minister spearheading agriculture development in Botswana. Thank you. We have a next speaker. Pleasure for me to invite Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Development from Zimbabwe, Honorable Professor Matuli Nakube. He is a financial economics, investments, and a public policy expert. He has been a professor of public policy at Oxford University, also a lecturer at London School of Economics. Before this, he's also served as Vice President and Chief Economist of the African Development Bank. Excellency, with your strong financial background, please share your vision and ideas on resolving the financial challenges that agri-development faces in Africa, and specifically in context with the agri-projects, capacity building, and retail finance. If you could share your thoughts with us.
Thank you very much, moderator. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you are. We really value the partnership between India and Africa through the CII Exim Bank Conclave on India and Africa project partnerships. Really, we expect this partnership to move Africa to the next level and to solve some of the financial constraints that Africa faces in some of the key areas along the value chain. As you know, the bulk of Africans survive on agriculture, and agriculture employs easily 65% of the population on average in any African country. Agriculture is easily 9% of GDP, but there's still some African countries that face food shortages and food insecurity. And the question is why? And the reason really lies with low productivity. And the question we are posing really are designed to deal with productivity. If I can just move along the value chain, I think the right at the beginning of that value chain is access to specific seed and then fertilizers. Most African countries tend to import food and fertilizers, and this is where again African countries can be supported either through the Exim Bank of India and other funders, domestic funders. But that's a key area. We in Zimbabwe, what we do is we get the government involved, Treasury has been involved in the financing of the acquisition of seed and fertilizers in the main. And what we do is we provide guarantees to commercial banks. Commercial banks then extend credit to farmers for the acquisition of these inputs. So government get involved in unlocking credit in this way. So that's one area at the beginning of the value chain. And moving along, there's also need to acquire equipment, tractors, the combine harvesters, harrows and seeders and many other things. And here again, the way to go is really to again support maybe the access to letters of credit, which then can be avowed by an international bank such as for instance, the Exim Bank of India, for example, or some other bank. And this will enable then the various African countries and farmers to access equipment. We have worked on a similar project in the tractor acquisition sector with India, but also with other countries whom I will not mention in this on this platform, because we are working with India quite well. So again, it's about access to trade finance facilities. That's really the way to go here in terms of acquisition of equipment. But also the equipment then should ideally be used in areas where exports can be generated, so that it can justify, or rather we can support the repayment of the loan facilities. If I can then move on to the next stage in terms of the value chain, which is the harvesting stage. This is about access to combine harvesters. That's what I would say, that's a critical issue, and I already mentioned something about the financing of it. But also there is scope locally within each African country for investment in the leasing area, where leasing companies can be licensed, capacitated, and farmers can then lease equipment from various financial institutions. So often banks have universal licenses which almost allow them to get involved in leasing contracts. So again, this is something that I guess could be supported. And here again, we could have the Exim Bank of India, for example, being involved in capacitating the local financial institutions for them to conduct leasing contracts, to involved in the leasing business. If we move along the value chain again to agri-processing, again in really investing in the agro-processing of agricultural produce, be it cotton, be it corn, there is a big market here. In fact, looking at an area like cotton, where Zimbabwe is a producer, and other countries are also producers, we find that there's a missing middle in terms of the spinning and weaving into cloth. What has happened? These countries produce raw cotton, export it raw, and then end up importing the various pieces of cloth to support the textile sector. So clearly that missing middle around retooling an industry for spinning and weaving is an opportunity. And on processing of corn, this is a milling story, but also producing animal feed out of that missing middle is also what is required in most African countries, including Zimbabwe. Those are some of the examples there. Then obviously things may end up on the retail shelf, either for animal feed or human consumption or whatever. And again, it's about investment in distribution chains, in logistics and distribution is also an area of potential investment. So these are some of the areas that could be financed along the value chain from farm to fork, or for wherever the products are going, including a value addition in terms of agro-processing. There's no reason why Africa should suffer from climate shocks. We had a climate shock here in our country, and that should be avoided. In fact, that brings me to yet another financing area at the beginning of the value chain, which is the irrigation equipment, that climate-proofing agriculture in Africa is critical. Zimbabwe has invested quite a bit in dam construction. This year alone, we're anticipating to complete 2 dams, but there's need to invest in evacuation infrastructure, the irrigation infrastructure to irrigate land and climate-proof agriculture. So you can see that there are so many intervention points along the value chain for agriculture, for almost for any agricultural product. And it would be most welcome if, again, India could be supportive here, or at least support local financing institutions to support the financing that's required along the value chain. Let me just stop here for now, having made those 2 interventions, and hope they've added value. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Your views and thoughts are very, very relevant. Thanks for sharing them with us. Now, we'll go to our industry panelists now, as we have the Honorable Minister from Equatorial Guinea still not with us. We're trying to get her. We'll get her once she joins. Our next panelist is Dr. Ratnakar Adhikari. He is Executive Director, Enhanced Integrated Framework, WTO, Geneva. He has been in this role since 2013, an aid for trade program for least developed countries with major focus on Africa. He has also done extensive research in areas of international trade, foreign direct investment, agriculture, food security, and also served in important roles in Nepal and Sri Lanka before. Dr. Adhikari, my question to you would be, as a WTO team member, how do you see the India-Africa cooperation in agricultural development and extending the synergies in this field? And what kind of institutional linkages would facilitate greater India-Africa cooperation in agri-research, food processing, capacity building, etc.?
Thank you, Mr. Wai. Somehow I am not visible. You know, my camera doesn't seem to be working.
We can see you.
Oh, okay, good. So thank you very much, and you know, for your question and for your generous introduction. And good afternoon, everybody. And I would also like to thank CII and Exim Bank for providing this opportunity. This is a very relevant topic, and particularly in the context of the question that you have raised, is that, you know, despite immense resources and potential, Africa is still a net agriculture importer, close to 80 billion imports of agriculture goods, you know, according to the recent figure. Intra-regional agriculture trade accounts for 20%, and it is one of the lowest in the world. At the same time, due to COVID-19, there's a need to have a fresh look at the various opportunities and to see look at the ways and means on how to harness the potential. So I basically see 3 opportunities. Let me start with the first one, and this very much relates to AFCFTA. And Africa's agriculture and agribusiness industry is expected to grow to $1 trillion by 2030. And Malabo Declaration on Agriculture Growth and Transformation aims to triple intra-Africa trade in agriculture, commodity, and services by 2025. And there are differing comparative advantage and trade complementarity within the continent. With food as an example, for example, Eastern Africa is more involved in production of rice, beans, and dairy. West Africa is more involved in production of sorghum, livestock, and fish. And Southern Africa is more involved in production of soybeans and groundnut. So this actually helps boost intra-African trade. So when I say this helps boost inter-African trade, that would actually enhance the size of the market, and that would also provide an opportunity for India to be able to enhance its export to Africa. And The other point is that, as Minister mentioned earlier, is that we can also help promote regional agriculture trade for regional and global value chain and supply chain, and particularly in the context of the disruption caused by COVID-19, I think this is going to be important, and also important in the context of the fact that raw material for agribusinesses and manufacturing actually comes from agriculture sector. So that's something in which there's a lot of potential. The second opportunity is the strengthen regional and national capacities. Comprehensive agriculture, Africa Agriculture Development Program, CAADP, has energized multiple stakeholders, including the private sector, who believe in agriculture's pivotal role in development. And according to the commitment that the governments have made, they have made a commitment to allocate 10% of the national budget on agriculture. And thanks to the investment by government and aid for trade donors, trade capacity as such has substantially increased in Africa. And this relates to addressing supply side constraints, things like infrastructure, compliance with standard, things like sanitary and phytosanitary standards, and trade facilitation, things like quarantine and custom formalities. They have substantially improved. And this also provides an opportunity. And there's a new model of partnership emerging with public investment financing public goods. And when I say public investment, including the investment from Exim Bank, which provides a concessional line of credit, and private sector investing in high return sector. So that's also a potential. Then the third potential is the agriculture technology, a disruptive technology such as artificial intelligence, blockchain, Internet of Things, and biotechnology offer tremendous potential. A study that we did together with ODI, Overseas Development Institute, shows that disruptive agriculture investment in East Africa alone was US $425 million in 2017, and this figure is growing. And there are several examples of blockchain application in Ethiopia and agriculture advice, weather information through digital technology in Ghana. So these are the technology, but what is needed in order to facilitate investment is the effective implementation of the AFCFTA and conducive investment climate and substantial coverage against potential risks such as political, health-related, and natural disaster-related, and capacity building for investment promotion and facilitation, which would help promote both trade and investment between Africa and India. With these words, I would like to stop here and would be happy to respond to any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Atkari, for being very precise with your comments and suggestions. I would request rest of the panelists also to please keep in mind the 4-minute timeline so that we can hear all participants. Can I have a request our next panelist, Mr. Rox Wildenborg, to switch on his so that we can see him.
Good afternoon, Mr. Wahi.
Yeah, hi.
Can you hear
see
me?
you? Yeah, he's been
okay.
Mr. Rox, he heads the secondary agriculture and at the EBSA Corporate and Investment Banking. By qualifications, he's done his law honors in economics as well as an MBA. He's a career banker with a lot of experience in structured trade, commodity finance, etc. Rox, South Africa is among Africa's highest agri-productivity market with a lot of potential for further growth, create sustainable jobs, etc. I would seek, being a banker, I would seek your response on how banking linkages can support in an organization like ABSA can help and provide in agri-development in Africa and to particularly India-Africa context.
Thank you, Mr. Wawi, and good afternoon, esteemed delegates and honorable ministers. Yes, as just by way of introduction, ABSA is quite involved in agriculture across the continent, and as you've rightly said, South Africa does have a very enhanced and sophisticated commercial agricultural sector, and therefore also a banking sector that focuses quite heavily on agriculture. Now, I think a lot of the challenges that faces agriculture has been focused on and has been mentioned here this afternoon. And from a banking perspective, I must say, agriculture has been very good for banks across the continent as a sector. COVID has laid bare a number of constraints, of course, but I think a lot of those have been overcome in quite a short period of time. Those are those that's linked to COVID, of course. So for Africa specifically, our concern is our calorie intake as a continent is the lowest of all the continents. And the question is then, how do we improve that? How do we solve this scenario over time? And of course, there are many answers to that question because it's a multifaceted problem. And it's also important to understand that the agricultural economy and progress is linked to the other sectors in economy. So when we speak about agriculture, we can't speak about agriculture in isolation. It's ingrained and integrated into various other sectors in the various countries' economies. So in general, where do I see banking linkages, or let me start with this. What do I see from a banking perspective to be very important? And I'll just be very brief. The one is, of course, good policy. And there's been mention of that. And an important factor there or principle is that we see that progress is achieved where the private sector is crowded into the agricultural economy. Then, of course, investment into hard and soft infrastructure. There we think of roads, railways, ports, electricity, storage, and the general logistics chain in any country. And of course, as bankers and financiers and some development finance institutions, these are very important areas for us to become involved in, and where there's good opportunity for public and private partnerships to enhance the economic prospects. We do have quite a lot of experience in trade, and on a sovereign level, and I think this point is very important, trade agreements and market access is of absolute importance for agriculture to progress. So there's still a lot of room for agricultural development in Africa and South Africa as well. But we must also be clear or understand that Africa has got a bit of a dualistic problem or challenge as far as agriculture is concerned. On the one hand, we have a very large portion of the population involved in primary agriculture as small scale or subsistence farmers, but then our countries in Africa also need the export orientated subsectors to develop. And I think that is quite a challenge from a policy perspective to deal with that dualism. But I do think we won't be successful if we won't be able or can't be able to address both of those issues. And then, of course, the adaptation of technology has been mentioned. So as far as banking linkages is concerned, I think over the short to medium term, we see the facilitation of commodity trade and commodity finance is very important across the continent, and especially sub-Saharan Africa as well. At the moment, we see that commodity flows and the finance of those flows are very important, and it's going to continue to be important. And unfortunately, because we've seen a number of quite large trader companies default over the last 18 months, 2 years, there's been a reduction in appetite from some international bank for commodity and trade finance across Africa. So there's definitely an opportunity there for African and South African and Indian banks to participate and take up that slack, so to speak. As far as produce is concerned, and let me just go back to that point. And of course, bilateral and correspondent banking lines and relationships are very important. As far as produce, what do we see in terms of produce investment from our perspective? On the export side, I see a lot of interest in the nut industry in West and East Africa. And indeed, Asia and some Indian companies have taken a very important role there in investing in hard factories and manufacturing capabilities across the continent, especially in Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire and in Tanzania as well. So I think there are some very good opportunities there. If you think about superfoods, which would be nuts and avocados, over the next 10 years or decade, those type of foodstuffs are going to be very important for those countries who can produce them efficiently and then also export to richer countries. I think sugar infrastructure and sugar production in sub-Saharan Africa is becoming a focus area for some countries. We've seen a lot of investment in countries like Tanzania, Malawi, and even in West Africa as well. And of course, Africa is a sugar deficit region. And because India has got such good expertise from a technical and a science perspective with sugar production, we've seen Indian companies coming in and investing quite heavily and adding value. And then in general, if we look at the investment into production capacity and logistics infrastructure, we've seen a lot of, well, if I say a lot, many companies, a significant number is looking at investing in hard infrastructure. And that's foreign direct investment taking place into countries like Mozambique, Tanzania, Kenya, which all bodes well for the long term. So I think having said all that, I think from our perspective, what we see is that all these challenges requires cooperation and communication on a per country sovereign level. Bilateral relationships are very important, and trade relations between country and market access is actually going to be a very important factor in achieving Africa's agricultural aspirations. I'm cognizant of the time, so I'll finish off and closing. I mean, we remain very, very positive about agriculture over the long term. But I think we must also be, as investors and financiers, realistic in our expectations. Agriculture, and we've been involved in this sector for a very, very long time, decades and decades. It's a long-term sector. Investment is a long-term process. And you don't easily see results in 1 or 2 years, more likely 5 years plus. So investors and financiers and development finance agencies must be cognizant in this when we look at agriculture as a sector. We have to think about long-term plans and long-term policies because that's what the sector requires. I'll finish there for the moment. Thank you, Mr. Way.
Thank you, Rox. Thank you very much. Banking definitely plays a very important cog in the whole agricultural sector development, particularly Africa. It's a pleasure to welcome another banker now on the panel, Ms. Monde Nyambe. She's Principal PPP Investment Officer with African Development Bank. She's a seasoned financial services professional with over 15 years of experience. And I see that she's worked with a lot of banking experience in different countries, in Zambia, Nigeria, South Africa. In the current role, Principal Public-Private Partnership Officer, looking after agricultural finance, rural infrastructure development based out of Abidjan. She is also the task team leader for Nigeria SAPZ program, a flagship of the Feed Africa strategy of the bank. Monde, what are the areas of the public-private partnership you see in agriculture sector in Africa, and how an Indian company can benefit from your and African Development Bank's extensive experience in identifying and realizing some of these opportunities in agricultural sector?
Thank you very much, moderator. Firstly, I'd like to congratulate the Confederation of Indian Industry for hosting this successful digital conclave. And in addition, I'd like to say thank you for inviting me to speak today. I'm delighted to be here and to be given this opportunity and privilege to speak to you about this important issue. As has been said, Africa has approximately 60 to 65% of the world's arable land, and agriculture accounts for over 65% of the region's employment, and yet it is characterized by high levels of poverty, hunger, malnutrition, and high food imports, as we've heard from other speakers. In light of this, the African Development Bank's Feed Africa strategy is focused on changing the narrative and transforming the agriculture landscape in Africa. So I'll just quickly talk about the goals of the strategy, which we've heard other speakers talking about all the challenges that we're facing. And this strategy aims at contributing to the end of extreme poverty, eliminating hunger and malnutrition, assisting regional member countries become net exporters of agriculture commodities, and moving regional member countries to top of key agriculture value chains. And some of the enablers, which again have been mentioned, include increasing productivity, value addition, provision of hard and soft infrastructure, provision of infrastructure finance at different levels, creation of an enabling agribusiness environment, inclusivity, sustainability, nutrition, and also coordination of all these efforts. So for this discussion in particular, I would like to focus our attention on a flagship of the Bank's Feed Africa strategy called the Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zones, which has been mentioned by the moderator. So SAPZs for me are more than just a low-hanging fruit, but a collaborative approach and an end-to-end solution to agriculture value chains. So the goals of this include basically increasing food production efficiency and capacity in value addition to agriculture in our regional member countries, creating employment opportunities by promoting investments in agro-industry and agribusiness, building the capacity, the skills, and entrepreneurship for inclusive agro-industrial development, and promoting local, regional, and international trade. So the objective is basically of the SAPZ to bring economic infrastructure to rural areas of high agriculture potential in order to attract investments from private agro-industrialists and entrepreneurs and contribute to the economic and social development of rural areas. So this also aims to stem the rural-urban migration that we face in Africa. So basically, what are these special agro-industrial processing zones? So these are agro-based spatial development initiatives designed to concentrate agro-processing activities within areas of high agriculture potential in order to boost productivity and integrate production, processing, marketing, and distribution of selected commodities. So they're purposely built shared facilities. And some of the components of this include an agro processing hub, which offers adequate infrastructure, logistics, and specialized facilities and services required for agro-industrial activities. So the ownership and management of the hub is controlled by a dedicated and independent entity, and often we recommend, and best practice has shown that this should be in a public-private partnership arrangement. Another component of this SAPZ basically is an agriculture transformation center and an aggregation center. So these ones would be strategically located within the production area to serve as aggregation points, to accumulate products from the community, and to serve as input supply points for the agro processing hub for further value addition also, and also for sending to centers of great demand and distribution and retail to customers. So basically looking at the structure of food parks in India. So India has mega food park schemes, which are very similar concept, They are implemented under the Ministry of Food Processing Industries, and the aim is to provide a mechanism to link agriculture production to the market by bringing together farmers, processors, and retailers to ensure maximizing value addition, minimizing of waste, increasing farmer income, creating employment opportunities, and so on. So the mega food park scheme in India is based on the cluster approach, which is pretty much what the SAPZ is also. And it envisages the creation of state-of-the-art support infrastructure in well-defined zones and sets up food processing units, modern food processing units, I must add, in industrial plots, basically provided within a park with a well-established supply chain. So in India, apparently now research shows that there are 22 parks in operation. So what opportunities then lie for PPPs and investments between India and Africa? So as has been mentioned by previous speakers, I mean, literally, I've highlighted similar opportunities, but what I wanted to emphasize more is over and above providing market linkages and end-to-end financing solutions for the entire value chain in agriculture. I wanted to emphasize more the co-financing of SAPZs. We need to see more of that. Where already the bank is partnering with other non-regional member countries such as China and Korea to finance basically players across the entire value chain. So from financing the government to SMEs, to smallholder farmers that are involved, to financing of the feasibility studies for the infrastructure components of it, and co-financing SAPZs themselves. So we've seen quite a lot of that with other countries. And then zone construction and facility management. This is another area where we know India has the technical know-how and over and above equipment supply, but Indian industries can come in through PPPs, come in and basically assist in establishing these agro-processing hubs and managing them. Also, knowledge transfer. This is very important on creating an enabling environment and crowding in private sector into agro-processing. So this is something that India is doing very well. I'm aware of a couple of industrial parks that are run by the private sector. And this is the know-how that we want to transfer to Africa, because we know that when private sector is running an entity, there's efficiency that is a result. So like I mentioned earlier, for us, this SAPZ should be a government-enabled project, but a private sector-led and managed project. So again, in agro-processing, we want to see more of Indian industries coming in to set up processing plants and actually processing, not only to limit their intervention to equipment supply and construction, but also to be involved in large-scale integration, precision farming, and the different value chains on a commercial basis using the high-tech cultivation practices and so on. Again, opportunities for partnership, just to reiterate, they exist in the agriculture and farm sectors, on the agri-engineering side, agri-infrastructure provision, agri-industry and food processing, capacity building, skill development and training, agri-logistics, and other sectors such as crop insurance, also renewable energy, agri-tourism, agribusiness consulting, and so on. And just my last concluding remarks would be to say that the time is now for India to partner with the African Development Bank to transform Africa's agriculture landscape through SAPZs. And India right now is very advanced, we know, in the technical know-how of food production and processing. So it's time to transfer this knowledge and technology to Africa. And like I said, other countries and regions are leading and supporting SAPZs in different forms. Like I mentioned already, China and Korea, and would like to see India take leadership in this aspect as well. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Monde. Thank you for your views. Thank you very much. Our next panelist is Mr. Gaurish Chakrabarti. Gaurish is the Chief Executive Officer and Executive Director of Ion Exchange SAFIC, a total water management company. This is a joint venture between Ion Exchange India and Accenture Group. Gaurish brings with him 30 years of experience in the field of water treatment and wastewater treatment. Gaurish, water, as you all know, is a very important, a key part of harvesting agricultural development across continents, particularly Africa. Tell us how Ion Exchange is contributing to realize this particular opportunity in Africa.
Thank you, Mr. Wahi, and respected all dignitaries and attendees. Wish you good health and greetings from Ion Exchange South Africa. As Mr. Wahi said, water plays a very important role, and we are in this business of water for close to 60 years. And with this joint venture in South Africa, we are here since 2012. Water plays a really very, very important role in food security and agriculture, and it is the basis of a healthy ecosystem and human well-being. So relationship between water and food products is key to creating a resilient, sustainable food system. So in terms of water, there are not only the quantity of water is limited, but quality of water is also very important when we talk about any aspect in terms of agriculture, industry, or for our drinking. Water usage in agriculture is more than 70%. So it is more important that we have a good quality of water and we retain this water and manage this water very efficiently and economically. When we offer the water to anybody who doesn't have to pay and just uses it, so it loses its importance and it actually creates a lot of wastage, and we have to be very careful about it, because as I said, agriculture uses more than 70% of the water that we have worldwide. So it is important for us to understand the value of this water. In recent years, agriculture regions around the globe have been subject to extensive and increasing water constraint. And these are the other extremes of like weather conditions when flood and tropical storms happen, also climate change, which actually gives challenges to the water, because the precipitation and surface water supplies are then reducing the packs of glaciers, and also salinity affects the water quality very much. So water quality is likely to deteriorate in many regions due to this kind of pollution, as I mentioned, salination by rising sea levels, and above all these issues. Intensive groundwater pumping for irrigation also depletes the aquifer and can lead to negative environmental extremities, causing significant economic impact. By 2050, the world's growing population will use 55% more water than what we are currently being using. So it is important for us to treat water, recycle water as much as possible. The challenges is to produce more food to meet the growing population demand using less water and other resources and inputs in the environment-friendly manner, so that it doesn't pollute also the water, the environment and water. The increased competition for scarce water and land resources increases the concern about where the additional food will come if there is a water challenge. These challenges are further exacerbated by climate changes, and also the availability across African landscape is also gradually decreasing as this is prevalent in other countries and worldwide. Water requirement in agriculture varies significantly, not only in terms of quality, but also in terms of quantity and quality, and the timing depending on the food type. The priority must be given to encourage greater efficiency of water usage and development of integrated water management plans. The shortage of food product due to the water scarcity calls for need to manage every drop of water. And also it gives the food safety in Africa and other continents. The countries have shifted food production within the agricultural sector, focusing on more planting of water efficient crops. Food security cannot be achieved without tackling the water issues, since lack of safe water underpins the food security. The countries continue to invest in protection and management of resources to continue deriving benefit for improved living condition. Undoubtedly, water projects and management in the agricultural sector is necessary, and more investment is required in this sector, which is actually neglected. In South Africa, if I can mention, there are challenges of water quantity as well as quality. You might have heard about issues related to acid mine drainage, and of course some of the issues are common in other continents and countries also, is like excessive use of pesticides and agricultural practices, unmonitored sewage system, domestic water usage like washing clothing and all those things, dumping into the surface water and becoming contaminated. And also usage of water discharged from the mines and municipalities are also creating a lot of pollution in this water. Once water is polluted, it may be difficult and extremely expensive to redress, particularly in case of underground water, which may affect the agricultural products in terms of excessive salts in the soil, unsuitable water for food production. And thus, importance is to note that water quality and the suitability of the food production is to ensure the food security. Water and food safety are actually essential components of the food chain, starting from production, processing, and eventually consumption. In addition to water pollution has historically impacted to food safety, which constitutes an important threat to human health, food, and nutritional security. In most sub-Saharan African countries, food safety problems vary in nature, severity and extent are also important. And these challenges are often exacerbated by the effect of climate changes and natural disasters like flood, hurricanes, wherever food may become contaminated with these kind of issues, where the surface water itself is contaminated with sewage and wastewater. And we take care of these conditions with different technologies which is available. Like if there is a flood, we have a disaster management unit. We also treat water on the point of usage. It is well documented that food water often picks up large quantities of waste and pathogenic bacteria from farms, sewage system, latrines, and septic tanks. The overcrowding of survivors after the disaster may also aggravate the situation, particularly if sanitary conditions are poor. In addition, agriculture remains the major source of water pollution. Agricultural remains actually, that also gives a lot of pollution. The agricultural fertilizer runoff, pesticides, use of livestock effluent, all contributes to the pollution of the wastewater and the groundwater. And it is important to treat this economically and more cost effectively. According to recent study, the main water usage issues, flood, food safety and other issues in the low-income countries, especially if we see in Africa, the bacteria and pathogens and pesticides residues are creating a lot of problems. Although there are reported evidence of foodborne diseases is still limited, the known incidence of foodborne disease in low-income countries are very limited. And the sources are mainly biological hazards and chemicals and physical contamination. The biological agents associated with the water contamination
Sorry to interrupt you, Garish. Sorry to interrupt you. We are running close to our time.
Yeah, I am just going to be finishing. Just
wind up your
2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks. So the bacteria, there are chemical, bacteriological contaminants which are treated efficiently and effectively. Otherwise, it gives a lot of issues. Like if you have high nitrogen in the water, which is used in the fertilizer, can create problem in the water and also the food. And there are mycotoxins which are also very severe, and it can impact the food and agricultural products adversely. So it is important for us to also handle the heavy metals which is coming out as a food safety, and we have those technologies to treat those water. And of course, this is going to be an integrated effort to treat the water which goes to the agricultural application as well as drinking application. And little promising progress has been made so far, but we have to promise ourselves to meet the target of SDG 2030. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Koresh. Water indeed is a very important part of agri-development story. We look forward to more hearing more from you, and participants can get in touch. Any of you have any questions, they are welcome to put it in chat and we can pass it on to the respective panelists. Our next panelist is Mr. R. Sudarshan. He's advisor exports to TAFE Group, an engineer and MBA by profession. He has over 37 years of experience in corporate fields such as projects, works engineering, sales, marketing, and exports. Widely traveled within Africa and spearheading many government projects. Mr. Sudarshan, one of the questions that was being asked earlier was how best can India support in the Feed Africa program strategy to transform African agriculture into globally competitive, sustainable, business-oriented sector, and how we can mold the Indian experience in that context to Africa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rajiv. Thanks for the introduction. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, very good morning, good afternoon. As Mr. Rajiv said, I represent TAFE, Tractors and Farm Equipment, who are leading manufacturers of tractors and farm equipment in India. We are the third largest tractor manufacturer in the world and the second largest in India by volumes. TAFE produces Massey Ferguson, TAFE, IMT, Eicher brands, and we produce more than 160,000 tractors a year and sell them in India and abroad. We are in more than 100 countries and in Africa alone present more than 30 plus countries. Now coming back to our point of discussion, we all know Africa has got 25% of world's arable land, but it generates only 10% of global agricultural output and unable to achieve its food security targets. Now, 60% of the population is engaged in agriculture, and nearly 65–70% of them are peasant and small farmers who still cultivate crops with hand tools. Low productivity and production of these small farmers is a serious concern which we need to address in order to improve the food security. Now, they face a lot of challenges. I'll just summarize: low yield, fragmented and small land holdings leading to this archaic agricultural practices, insufficient input use, inferior crop varieties, low availability and use of farm power, severe rain dependence, high supply chain wastages. Wastage is almost 2% of global average, low local value addition, lack of access to finance. These are all the reasons. Take India and Africa have many things in common. You know, already the other speakers have touched population and GDP nearly the same, land holding patterns almost the same. Also, diverse climatic regions that include vast area under rain-fed conditions. Now, some time ago, India was in the same state as African economies are in now, had the same challenges mentioned earlier. However, India has progressed far ahead in agriculture. The yields are much better, almost double across many staple crops when compared to that of Africa. How this was made possible? Green Revolution. Yes, the Green Revolution, empowered by farm mechanization and supported by farmer-friendly government policies, changed all that. And now we are a food surplus country and export food to other countries. This was made possible due to development of high-yielding crop varieties, hybrids, mechanization enabled by production of tractors and associated implements, for small and medium farmers, bringing more area under irrigation. In addition, government policies such as extending credit to farmers by banks. This is very, very important, missing in Africa somewhat. An offering of minimum support price to major commodities and gradual reduction of dependence on chemical fertilizers. Has India's journey involved participation of all the stakeholders across public and private spectrum. Now, Africa is aspiring to raise its agricultural output, which was $280 billion in 2010 to $880 billion in 2030. Now, this increase can happen by adopting what we have done in India, for example, like by bringing potentially cultivable and waste land into cultivation, by increasing yields, by introducing high-yielding varieties and hybrids from India. India can help for the major crops. Introduction of appropriate tractors and farm equipment for small and medium farmers to reduce dependence on human labor and increase efficiency in farm operation. Mr. Raji was talking about India using 900,000 tractors a year against just 30,000 tractors in Africa, which is 9.2 times larger than India. And if you take tractors used, average tractors used per 1,000 hectares, it's 16 in India versus just below 2 in sub-Saharan Africa. Now, there is a dire need to increase efficiency in of water use also, as the previous speaker was talking. Drip irrigation is one of the solutions for this. Again, the solar-powered water pumps are an excellent source of green energy, which we have been using to pump water from shallow wells and ponds to increase the area covered under irrigation without dependence on electricity. When there is electricity issues, definitely is a boon to some of the African rural areas. Now, support of government and private financial institutions to make finance available. This is very, very important. And this was one of the important points leading to green revolution in India. Now, in all these above areas, whatever I mentioned, the experience and expertise of relevant specialist Indian companies can be used by Africa under the Indian partnership. There are many companies specializing in this, and for each relevant products, they can have partnerships to replicate what has happened in India there. And how TAFE as a company can support. As I was mentioning, we have been in the farm mechanization field for more than 60 years. We have participated in the green revolution, and we are proud to have provided farm power in over 2 million farms across India and world over. We can offer appropriate, versatile tractors for the small, medium farmers in Africa. Over and above this, we practice, TAFE's Adaptive Research and Training Center. It's a center of excellence called JFarm. Through its efforts in the past 60 years, has put together TAFE's integrated farming and mechanization model. This is specially tailored for small farmers that leverages relevant mechanization to ensure the small farmers transition from subsistence to prosperity through extensive training, knowledge sharing, and capacity building in the following 6 areas, like integrated farming, that is integrating farming with animal husbandry in small and medium farms. Otherwise, depending on just one crop, and if that season fails, you know what is the situation of the farmer. Now, combining with that, people have regular income. Then ensuring a mix of short-term, medium-term, and long-term crops like vegetables, cereal crop, and trees, orchards, they can be combined. Reduce chemical dependence by supplementing with biofertilizers and pesticides. Then manage water and soil through simple on-farm practices. Introduce modern and innovative geography-relevant farming techniques, crops, and seeds. Now, ensure that all the above are empowered through affordable and relevant mechanization. Mechanization is very, very important for achieving all these things effectively. Now, all these activities have ensured greater than 200 days of work for the farmers that makes farming a viable and attractive career for the younger generation. No more the younger generation need to leave farming and go to urban areas for taking some other job. A sustainable, regular monthly income is possible. Input cost reduction for greater farmhead profitability, and then empowers the rural economy as a whole and contributes to food security. Now, ladies and gentlemen, now TAFE is ready to share these experiential learnings along with building capacity to use, operate, and maintain appropriate farm machinery in African countries. As a part of our efforts to ensure global smallholder farmers' sustainability and prosperity, and contributing to food security in Africa.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Mr. Sudarshan. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
for your views.
Thank you.
We have another tractor manufacturer, Mr. Sumant Khanna, Head of Institutional Sales in Africa from Escorts Limited. He has been in the agriculture sector for the last 12 years, with a total of over 24 years in different profiles. Traveled to over 40 countries, carried with him a good experience, extensively traveled within Africa, developing channel and institutional sales. Sumant, my question to you would be, is Indian farm mechanization experience, as we've been talking, is it relevant for Africa? And how best is your company Escorts looking to address the agricultural development opportunity in Africa? Let us be, rest of the panelists request again for everyone to be brief because running short of time.
Sure.
Yes,
good afternoon, esteemed delegates, ministers, and panelists. Thank you, Mr. Vahi, for asking this question. Like Mr. Sudarshan also covered the Indian perspective of mechanization industry for Africa. I would like to tell you that from that I represent Escorts Limited. We are a company into agriculture tractors and machinery for over 7 decades. Our business verticals include tractors, agri-machinery, construction equipments, and railways. Coming to the question, how Indian example is relevant to Africa, like India over the years have developed many frugal innovations and solutions which are visible in Indian farms, and developed the knowledge and experience in getting the proven results as far as food sufficiency is concerned. India can definitely partner by sharing such effective solutions with our African farming community for sustainable and inclusive growth. Indian technology and companies can certainly play a pivotal role in developing up agriculture and bringing in green revolution in Africa. Now coming to the second part of the question, where how best Escorts can support agriculture in Africa. We have taken some unique innovative steps in offering crop solution initiatives, inculcating the Indian best practices through the agriculture value chain. We are working on the philosophy of offering complete end-to-end solutions, working together with companies wherever required to design and offer comprehensive solutions. This could be crop-based or a particular geography-based, to design the knowledge transfer, study, quality inputs, fertilizers, training, and eventually offering an end-to-end solution. A lot of hand-holding goes with it. So we become a part of that value chain, and we do partner with companies which are specialized in different fields, which can come together to give a complete solution for agriculture. We, through our training centers and our crop solution initiatives, we've been just doing that by providing training to local farmers and Indian best practices, and throughout the agriculture value chain. Now, this may include, hand-holding and knowledge transfer right from the land preparation, selection of best suited seeds, best practices for land preparation, planting activities, and harvesting, and most essentially the post-harvesting activities. So, which leads to the capacity building of the country and the farmers, which we provide with the knowledge base. So it helps them take out most of their farms and improve the food productivity. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Vahi, you are on mute, please.
Yeah, am I audible? Yeah. Thanks, Sumant, for your comments on what Escorts is doing in Africa. Our next panelist is Ms. Danisa Ragulal. She's Executive Director for Elite Foods and Innovations Group. she started fairly young in a family business, and now she's been fully involved and manages all operations of the company. I hear Danisa aims to offer a more environmental friendly, healthy, and nutrition food products to consumers across the globe. We look forward to hear from Danisa. Is the Indian industry really geared to invest more in Africa? What is your perspective in the agricultural infrastructure sector and the agro-processing sector? And how is Elite Group planned? Do you have plans for investments in Africa? Please share your thoughts with us.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Rajiv. I hope I'm audible and visible.
Yes. Yes.
Honorable ministers and fellow delegates, thank you so much for having me here. I'll start off with a short description on my company and go on to talk about how we could work together in supporting the food processing industry together. Elite is a diversified group with activities in food processing, real estate, solar, medical tech, and so on. And I would like to proudly say today that Elite's food division runs one of the largest food processing companies in southern India, with the reach of over 100,000 outlets being catered on a day-to-day basis, with the production of over 1,000 metric tons a day. The group is powered by 13 quality-driven state-of-art manufacturing facilities with a range of products in confectionery, baking, milling, and of course, wellness range. We have been in the food industry for almost 4 decades with its primary vision of backward and vertical integration in order to be consistent with quality products with farm to fork guarantee with a target of net carbon emission by 2022. Currently, 20% of our revenue comes from international businesses in many global markets, including Middle East, USA, UK, Europe, Canada, and even Botswana. Further through our international trade, as well as building up outside of India food processing units that can help us cater to the rest of the world. The India-Africa relationship dates back in time with a lot of common factors tying these two countries together. Both India and Africa have abundant natural resources and production potential, and therefore share a central role in ensuring global food security in the near future. Considering India and Africa's complementary sectoral priorities, numerous opportunities exist for collaboration between them in food processing and in agriculture. The Indian food industry has significant support from R&D capabilities of Indian firms and research institutes such as CFTRI, NDRI, which is not as easily accessible when it comes to setting up facilities there. It would not only help in increasing the food processing efficiency, but also extend to increased yield in agro farms. Agribusiness economic zones, along with such incubators to support the food processing industry, would help to attract FDI, creating jobs and also generate exports. A few key points that has come to my mind when thinking about these economic zones that can be food processing specific is firstly, of course, a single management or a single window administration. Secondly, would be a physically secured and demarcated geographical area with tie-ups with training institutes in order to meet local labor requirements. Thirdly, offer benefits for investors physically within the zone with sustainable development in mind. Option for green manufacturing with renewable energy resource for the food processing economic zone. Fourth, streamline procedures with duty-free benefits or specific export processing zones within to help cater not just the local market, but also help build the African continent as a global food resource. Connectivity to retail or distributor warehouse through good roads. And finally, contract farming focus through microfinancing or through public-private partnership to ensure job security and also increased productivity. The continent as a whole has the potential to not only become self-sufficient in food production, but also serve as a global food basket. With the right support, African countries can leverage their resources to overcome food security and compete in the global food markets. The continent currently produces only 10% of the global output, which shows that it's high time that the tables turned and the output of value-added products increased by joining hands together. The ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has brought the issues of food security globally and is also now threatening to severely disrupt traditional agricultural value chains. The continent has the potential to not only become self-sufficient in food production, but also a global food basket. With the right support, I feel we can work together with our joint resources to become the world's food bank. I kept it short, Raju. I hope it's all good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dennis. I appreciate your sticking to a tight time schedule. Invariably, it happens. The last speakers
get pushed.
Thank you. As I said before, any participant has any questions, they can welcome. We'll share with the fellow panelists. As we have some, I can see some questions. We'll share with the panelists. Our last speaker for the day is Mr. Purnendu Paroy, Joint GM at Afcon's Infrastructure. He's a civil engineer with over 25 years experience in construction industry, looking after business development in the areas of hydro, irrigation, and underground works. Mr. Purnendu, our question to you would be hydro and irrigation, again, very important parts in our whole value chain for Africa's agri-development. How do you see this sector evolving, and what are the areas of opportunity, especially in context of India, that companies can see in these areas, and your particular experience in these sectors in Africa? Please share with us.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Rajiv. And good afternoon that all the delegates, panelists, and that guest of honors, Excellency. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, actually I am Purnendu. I am part of that from Afcons. It is a Sapurji Palanji Group's company. We are mainly in the infrastructure business. So as a Sapurji Palanji Group, we have long presence in Africa, and our chairman wish is another next 100 years we will be in Africa and will be the part of the development of Africa. It is a really unfortunate that though this Africa, that subcontinent, have that more than 60% arable land, however, only 10% it is that agriculture production, which leads to that hungers and as others malnutrition in that subcontinent. So definitely, sir, there is a solution. That earlier speaker, they are mentioning about that increasing of that food production efficiency, that is most important. So there is some factors is available. Definitely there is some constraint. One is that there is a deficiency in the rain, and that actually there's some technological also. So some our earlier speakers, they are ready to support with some solution. So this thing is as a construction company, and whatever we gained that experience in India in this sector, especially irrigation and agriculture. So its needs for any agriculture business is required that water. 12-month water is required to enhance that production, and then only it can be sustainable. So one is that you can provide water through that natural gravity system by providing that dam, barrages, and waters. That is one. Second is your lift irrigation, because now certain area which may not, that water may not be go throughout the year. So that area cultivation, it can be done only during that monsoon, and rest of that time it is just barren land. So there it is required, sir, complete irrigation system through the lift irrigation by that pump, and this pump, it is required that power. So here it is the importance and very good linkage between that hydropowers and that irrigation systems. So with the dam and barrage, we can do that irrigation system. This can be the multi-purpose project. So where that water can be drawn for that irrigation during that lean season, and also power also can be generated. So both ways it solve the purpose, and of course there will be the reservoir area where they can put that solar panel, so which will help to generate electricity, and that it is a very low cost. Everybody knows that solar power. So that lifting that water, which require that huge power, so that can be managed with the solar power in the reservoir area. So with this, I think this we can improve this food production efficiency. We can produce that crops or main whatever is required. That is the main water we can give. We can supply that water 12 months or throughout the year. So we have similar type of jobs in India. You might everybody knows this Kaleshwaram lift irrigation schemes. So that is the largest irrigation scheme in India. So whereas the Afghans, we have participated there, we built a 2 dam and reservoir. One is that 50 TMC capacity storage capacity, and one is that 11 TMC. So this Telangana, this state area, it is also some where it is that this water cannot reach there. So this scheme, it is made that this water trap in the Godavari river during the monsoon and flood season, and the lean season it is lifted to the reservoirs and supplied through the gravity channel. So all these measured this land is can be now that became cultivated throughout the year. So that way we can given the solution. Even Sapurji Palonji group, they are well present in the Africa in the sectors of road, bridges, water pipeline sector also. So even for this irrigation dam and hydropower, we are ready to help anytime, and we are definitely tie hand with them for that any development for this next 100 years. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Purnendu. We come to the end of the session. It's been very engaging. Though the paucity of time, we could not give adequate time to everyone, but the idea was to get a cross-section view both from Africa, the bankers, and the Indian industry, and it was good to hear views from the cross-section. We take the opportunity to thank all the ministers who were present today with us. Thanks for taking our time. My fellow panelists, thanks for your presence, and all the participants who have been present today and heard. Again, if you have any questions, welcome to put in the chat box, and we'll pass on to the respective panelists to respond back to you. And I wish continued best wishes to you. Keep engaged with the rest of the program, which will continue after this. Thank you very much for all your participation.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wahi. Thank you.
Thank you.
All the speakers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.